In this lecture, we cover some of the principles of quality and productivity as a business strategy. We periodically mention the names of Dr. Walter Shewhart, Dr. W. Edwards Deming, Dr. Russell Ackoff, and Peter Schultes. The management today faces two problems. Problems of today, they constantly improving design of products and services currently in use, or problems of the future, innovate allocation of resources for long-term planning. Therefore, quality and productivity as a business strategy have two fundamental approaches. First, continually improve current products and services, and second, innovate new products and services. The second strategy is the key to the future. Therefore, the fundamental principle is long-term. The organizational purpose sets the course today with a plan to be in business in the future. Therefore, the distinction between leadership and management is that leadership is planning for the future and management is planning for today. There is a fundamental relationship between quality and productivity. As quality is improved, productivity is improved. As you can see, that there is a direct relationship between these two. As quality goes up, productivity goes up. Therefore, improvement of productivity is a natural consequence of improvement of quality. One exercise would be, perhaps, to identify what are some of the examples and practices that produce poor quality, therefore leads to reduction in productivity. Here is an example that perhaps clarifies what we are saying here. Imagine that you are working in a process and this tube represents the process, and as you are working in this process, you face a hindrance, an obstacle in the process. And rather than trying to identify the causes of these obstacles and problems in our workflow, we try to work around it. We work around this hindrance and that hindrance. Over a period of time, working around the hindrance becomes a part of the process. We oftentimes place inspection stage here at the end of the process and trying to manage the results. By the time the product or the service reaches the end stage or this stage, quality, good or bad, is already in the product or in the service. Any changes at that stage is very expensive and too late. Therefore, the root causes of the problems we face are buried in the system. The question here becomes, what are the causes? What is the root causes of these hindrances and problems that appear in the process? Anything we do at this stage, at the end process, is simply addressing the symptoms of the problem. Therefore, we have to make a very clear distinction between efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency essentially means doing things right, and effectiveness is doing the right thing. We often spend a considerable amount of our time and resources trying to do the wrong things better and better. We often initiate many changes in order to supposedly make an improvement. And the question must be, should we be doing this at all? For example, we spend an enormous amount of time and resources how to work around hindrances more and more efficiently. That's the wrong thing to do. The effectiveness would tell us to ask the question, why are we doing what we're doing? Why should there be this? This should be as a part of doing the process. Should we be doing this at all? And then once we ask the right question, we actually asking an effectiveness question. Here is an example of complexity in the workplace. Some of you might have read this example in the complexity paper in our earlier modules. Here is an example of how a simple process of getting a kit that contains three parts and make a fourth part and proceed. However, because of the problems in the process, now this process has become very, very complex with many steps in there. For example, the problem began by a kit coming incomplete, and then it came incomplete again and again and again. Therefore, rather than asking why the kits come incomplete, the company and the process placed an inspection stage here. So therefore, this diamond refers to an inspection stage. Are the kits complete? If they are, you proceed. If they are not, then there are a series of activities and work that has to be done. So a simple process here has turned into a very complex process here. And what happens? What is the supervisor's function and work? Well, the supervisors are running around and trying to get the work done. They expedite. They find parts and interrupt work and review materials. Therefore, they're spending considerable amount of time trying to get the work done, which takes us back to this example I was referring to earlier. We're trying to work around this and this and this more and more efficiently. Another example, this is from Peter Scholte's textbook, the Leader's Handbook. As you can see what the difference is between these two work layouts and how a simple process has turned into a very complicated process, and then by improving the process, how the process can be simplified. These are two examples of showing how complexity can turn into a very high cost and very ineffective way of doing things. So Dr. Juran, the eminent quality person, has said that has referred to the cost of quality, that in an average, this is a fairly dated statement, but it's very relevant today, that the cost of quality, that relating to the cost of quality, that in an average facility there is a hidden factory that consumes 10 to 20% of the productive capacity. The work done in the hidden factory is devoted to producing components that replace those that had to be scrapped, reworked, and replaced. This is a good indication of essentially what Dr. Juran says, that inside every organization it seems like as though there is another organization and that eats up 10 to 20% of their productive capacity due to poor quality. That value, that percentage perhaps is larger in different processes and different companies. So, although we can place cost on many of the examples of poor quality, however, Dr. Deming says that most of the figures that we need is unknown and unknowable. And he refers to that one cannot be successful on visible figures alone. Actually, the most important figures that one needs for management are unknown or unknowable. For example, what is the cost of an unhappy customer, or the multiplying effect of an unhappy customer, or what is the cost and the benefits of a happy and delighted customer? What is the cost of poor training? What is the cost of low morale? What is the cost of poor supervision? These are some of the examples that essentially we cannot place a cost, a value on that, and they have large long-term effect and impact on our processes. Here we try to discuss what is known as Deming chain reaction, which is the relationship between quality and productivity. If we improve quality, we should, due to the reduction in rework and better use of our materials and resources, the cost is reduced. If the cost is reduced, that leads to improvement of productivity. Perhaps we can reduce our prices and be competitive and increase our market share, stay in business, and provide job and more jobs. And if we do all of these effectively, then we have a better return on our investment. Therefore, quality is the solution to our problem. If you try to really see this, what Dr. Deming is saying is that actually we have a better return on investment if we focus on improvement of quality. You can get to the return on investment by focusing and working on the improvement of quality. Therefore, one of the questions that often is raised in management meetings is how to improve productivity. Well, to improve productivity, as our earlier slide showed, the answer to that is improvement of quality. Therefore, in order to reach to a better return on investment, stay in business, increase our market share, stay in business in the future, is the focus on improvement of quality.